Young Woman Dead, written by Thomas Kennedy, narrated by Robin Howatt Shrock. Chapter 1. The body of a young woman was spread-eagled on the center lawn of the Seapoint, a luxury apartment development. She had short blonde hair, stylishly cut, a warm, handsome face, a good figure, and would have seemed athletic were she still alive. She was fully clothed and would have appeared to be asleep, except for the tangled array of her limbs and the angle of her neck, altogether suggesting death. The apartments all had spacious, terraced balconies that were called terraces by the residents. Those on the north side had internal terraces, positioned to catch the sun from the south, whereas the other apartments had their terraces facing outwards. The best position were those facing south, but the side terraces were still able to catch either the rising sun or the setting sun to east and west. The residents first became aware of the presence of a body on the lawn when Georgina, a resident of the top-floor corner apartment, came onto her terrace and looked out into the central lawn. The sun was rising in the south, and she delighted in the warmth and brightness of the day. Then she looked down. For a moment, she wondered should she go get her glasses. But no, there was a body, and yes, it was arms and legs akimbo. And yes, it was Jill, the pretty young thing who was secretary and researcher to Anna, the writer, a resident. The two-storied block of apartments was square in shape and built around a central lawn that was entered from the parking area by central arches in the north and east sides of the complex. Externally, towards the main entrance, it had garages off to the side of a wide parking area. There was a south side arch, but none on the west side. A pathway surrounded the central lawn on all four sides. The arch on the south side led to the swimming pool and to a passageway which wound from the rear and through a locked side gate onto the road that led to the village, a 10-minute walk away. Georgina was slow to absorb what she could see. Had Jill come home drunk and fallen in a heap? "Jill!" she shouted. First, she said the name in a reasonably polite, loud voice, but when she got no response, she shouted, "Jill!" Then she suppressed a scream and ran down her stairs and out into the central area and crossed the lawn, her distress increasing with every step. It was not a residence where loud voices were approved, and shouts were definitely not normal. Several of the north side residents looked out. As they faced inwards, they were more inclined to be turned into the center area, compared with those whose terraces were facing outwards. Those out-facing apartments had their entrance doors backed on to the square center, but were oriented outwards and were less likely to hear an upset in the center. Georgina stared down at the young woman. Georgina had been in the fashion business before she retired, but even she could see the young woman was stone dead. She stood and looked down at her and wondered, and then held herself, clasping her arms to her chest in horror. Slowly the word spread, and other residents came and joined her. They sent for Bill, a doctor who lived in the south corner, and he came when called, in his vest and pants, wiping shaving cream from his face. "She's dead," he pronounced. They stood and stared. Then Nora arrived and asked, "Did anyone call an ambulance?" This brought the group to its senses. Hugh, husband of Diana, fished out his mobile and called the police. Nora O'Connor, the wife of a solicitor, took charge, remarking that they were trampling on probable crime scene and they should retreat to the verge of the large lawn. When her lawyer husband, Mick, arrived on foot of the kerfuffle, he reinforced her command and ushered the residents away from the body. With the arrival of the police and the ambulance to the sound of their sirens, it seemed that all hell would break loose. There were 36 apartments in total, 16 on the ground floor and the balance on the first floor. The complex was surrounded by a strongly built 10-foot-high metal fence, and it had an electronic gated entrance, wide enough to easily take 2 cars in parallel. The upmarket residence, sold for its privacy and luxury,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?